So, good evening. Let's generate our motivation. So, whenever we hit difficulties, which is often, samsara is one big difficulty, one big problem, then it's good to generate bodhichitta. Because as Shantideva says, it's the elixir that clears away all suffering and brings all happiness. And that benefits each and every living being. So when you really generate bodhicitta, even if it's artificial, contrived bodhicitta, there's a change in your mind, and you can't get stuck in self-pity or self-blame, because bodhicitta completely focuses on the situation of others and wants to benefit them. And so there's no time or interest to get involved in all of our personal dramas. So that brings a lot of relief, doesn't it? So let's have this motivation for listening to the teachings tonight, for living our life as long as it lasts, and for generating bodhicitta in life after life. Okay, so try when you have problems, when your mind is unsettled, when you're irritated with somebody or mad at somebody or judgmental about what somebody's doing, or you feel like the whole world's going to collapse if this certain thing doesn't happen or if this certain thing doesn't stop. Yeah. So whenever your mind gets revved up like that, it's very helpful to generate bodhicitta and look at the situation we're in, look at the people we're dealing with from the perspective of these are sentient beings whose minds are overwhelmed by afflictions, just like my mind. And it's those afflictions that are making them do what I consider so awful. And so when you remember that, then instead of blaming the sentient beings, you see that the real problem is the afflictions, not the sentient beings. And that the sentient beings are being tormented and controlled and made to create negative karma because of the afflictions. And so that helps to have a compassionate attitude towards the sentient beings themselves, while you still want to help them overcome whatever afflictions they have. And when you think like that, then your own mind doesn't get afflicted. Okay, because you're thinking about the welfare of others and how they're trapped. When we get very self-righteous and we get angry and judgmental about what somebody's doing, okay, our self-centeredness is activated at that point, because we have an idea about how things should be and how somebody should act or how they should not act. And, our ego involvement gets really, involved in that. So it's no longer just some kind of situation. It's like we make it this incredible important thing that, I have to do something about, It's like there's this spot on the rug and it's intolerable, Who put the spot on the rug? After it's the new rug. And I told them to be careful of what they're carrying, and they ignored me because nobody pays attention to what I say anyway. And they spilled the spaghetti on the new rug. And this is terrible because my mother's coming over and I wanted to show off the new rug, and now the new rug is dirty and my mother's going to think I'm a horrible housekeeper. And she's right, but I don't want her to think like that. And so we better do something to clean this rug. Anyway, you can get it immaculate. And then I've got to punish the person who spilled the spaghetti sauce on it. Okay? So who spilled the spaghetti sauce? Yeah? Because if you raise your hand, you're going to get it. Okay? And you see, our mind just gets, we're out of control with our rage, and it's just a rug and spaghetti sauce, which I know is almost the end of the world, but it isn't the end of the world. So save, your fear of the end of the world for the actual end of the world, Don't waste it before on the second most thing, okay? And so, you think, oh, the person with the spaghetti sauce, it's just somebody likes spaghetti. I like spaghetti. I can understand that. They were carrying the spaghetti sauce from the kitchen to, eat the spaghetti in front of the TV. Even though we have a rule in the house that we don't eat spaghetti in front of the TV. But, it makes them happy. They didn't want to harm me. They didn't have the intention, to spill the spaghetti sauce on the brand new rug to make me upset. Yeah. I mean, who has the intention to spill the spaghetti sauce? Very few people have the intention to spill it. It just slips out of your hand or spills off the end of the plate or something happens. Yeah. So why am I getting so upset about something like this? Okay. And then you think, oh, but that person, they just want to be happy. And okay, it's a rule in the house. We don't eat spaghetti in front of the TV. You can eat nachos in front of the TV, but you can't eat spaghetti. I don't know why we have that rule, but anyway, you shouldn't break it. So, this is just life. And this person just wants to be happy. They don't have harmful attitudes. Okay. And maybe they tripped over the cord in the middle of the rug. And who left the cord in the middle of the rug? Yeah, it was me. Yeah. So maybe I have something to do with them tripping and spilling the spaghetti sauce. So in that way your mind kind of relaxes. Yeah. And you get used to, being able to differentiate between really serious catastrophes and, small catastrophes, like spaghetti sauce. Okay. And then you don't waste your energy getting upset about the little things. Yeah, you save all your energy for when they don't spill the spaghetti sauce, but they throw the rug out because they don't like it, even though they know you like it. You know? So, okay, you're getting what I'm saying, you know? So bodhicitta really helps us to shift the attention in our mind to other sentient beings, and in that way, it protects us from negativity. Okay? And then maybe, because we've generated bodhicitta, we'll help clean up the spaghetti sauce on the rug, even though we weren't the one who spilled it. Never! I will never clean up somebody else's mess. They need to learn to clean up their own mess. Because if they don't learn, then they're going to go through life making messes and expecting other people like me to clean it up. So I've got to stop this behavior on their part now. Yeah, right, Sergeant Joyous Effort? Immediately you have to stop that behavior, because otherwise it's going to be a habit and they're going to dribble spaghetti sauce yeah, all the way up to the Pure Land. Yeah. So, okay, so it just kind of helps us quiet our mind down a bit, yeah, and help. And then maybe we can even learn to laugh at the situation. Yeah. Okay. So we are on page 295, under the section that says intention karma, intended karma, and mental karma. Okay. So karma is of two types. Actually, there's many ways to divide karma. We've been covering a lot of them in this chapter and previous chapters. So this is one way, where karma is of two types. First one is intention karma, and the second is intended karma. So Vasubandhu explains in Abhidharmakosha, the Treasury of Knowledge. He says, karma gives rise to the diversity of the world. It is of two kinds, intention karma and what it produces, or intended karma. Intention is mental karma. The intended karma it produces is physical and verbal karma. These physical and verbal karmas consist of perceptible and imperceptible karma. Okay. So, the karma definitely gives rise to the diversity in the world, because sentient beings have different karmas, then they get born in different bodies, they have different experiences, they live in different environments, and so on. So, there's two kinds. So, intention karma and intended karma. Intention karma is the mental factor of intention in the mind. Okay? It produces intended karma, which is the verbal or physical action that you did. Okay? So intention is mental karma. And then the verbal and physical actions are intended karma. And you can see here, intention, okay, that goes with the mental factor of intention. Intended karma is what that intention intended to do, okay? Now, within intended karma, there's two divisions, perceptible and imperceptible. Okay? So those of you who have been for your full ordination, you'll remember the term, the precept body, which is an imperceptible karma. Okay? We'll get into that in a few pages. Okay, so intention karma is mental karma. It's the mental action. Specifically, the mental factor of intention, which is in which of the four mental aggregates? Where's the mental factor of intention? Miscellaneous. Yeah. The aggregate of miscellaneous factors. Okay. And it's one of the five omnipresent. So it occurs with, every kind of mind. Okay. So once a strong intention has arisen in the mind, physical and verbal actions, intended karma, follow. So the intention has to be strong enough to make the mouth move or make the body move. Okay. The body and the speech don't move unless there's an intention in the mind first. Okay. Even though it seems like sometimes you're saying things and you think, just shut up, I shouldn't be saying this, like somebody else is talking, but there's an intention there somewhere, that's strong enough to make that happen. Physical and verbal actions may be either perceptible karma that reveals the person's intention, or imperceptible karma that does not. Okay, so when it talks about perceptible or non-perceptible, it's if you are the karma, the speech and the body is going to give you an idea of what's the person's intention was. Okay, so is the intention quote quote perceptible through the physical and verbal action? Okay, so example, if I walk in a room and I'm going, does that tell you about something about how I might be feeling or what I might be thinking? Versus if I walk in the room and I go, yeah, okay. You're not sure. So, yeah. So, our body and speech can give us ideas about what's going on in somebody's mind, what they're intending. Oh, this is coming up in the impeachment thing, because one of the, here I go again. But it's interesting, but it's a very good example, because some people are saying, well, after, they broke into the Capitol and they're running, the rioters, and they're running around and everything like that, how do you know what was going on in Trump's mind? Because he did say, now it's time to go home and be peaceful and you're special people, and so that sounds very nice, doesn't it, to say, how do you know what's going on in his mind? Yeah. Well, you look at other words he said in that same tweet, where he again repeated the big lie that the election was stolen, that it was a corrupt election when it wasn't. Yeah, so you look at that, and that can give you an idea through what he tweeted of what was going on in his mind, what his intention was. Yeah, because at that point, he knew, for example, that the vice president was in danger. He didn't ask, is Pence safe? He didn't say, what can I do to stop the rioting, anything like that. Yeah, actually, what he did in the middle of the rioting was he called one of the senators and asked him to please delay the certification process some more. And the senator said, I can't talk to you now. Vice President Pence has just been evacuated and I've got to go. So, his words, they tell you what was going on in his mind. Okay, so it's perceptible karma, indicating the intention, and what was most important in his mind at that time. And, and it was slowing down what the Senate was doing in tallying, all the electoral votes and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's a very good example. That's how you see. You can read somebody's intention by their words, by their actions. For example, when strong malice is present in our mind, the mental factor of intention that accompanies it is mental karma. Okay, so we have to be very clear here. The mental factor of intention is one mental factor. The mental factor of malice is another mental factor. The mental factor of malice is non-virtuous. It's the one that makes the intention non-virtuous. Okay, so the intention doesn't do that by itself. It becomes virtuous or non-virtuous depending on the other mental factors that it shares the same primary mind with. Because remember, when you have a primary mind, just the basic consciousness, visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, tactile, and mental consciousness, that's just the primary consciousness. And then you have different mental factors that perform different functions that shape that primary consciousness into what it's going to become. So in the case of a mental karma, it's the primary mental consciousness. There's the mental factor of intention. And then, if you have the mental factor of malice or love or, stinginess or generosity, then all of these are going to make that whole mental state either virtuous or non-virtuous. And because that mental factor of intention is one of the 5 omnipresent ones, it's definitely going to be together with that the primary mental consciousness, then it also becomes non-virtuous or virtuous. Okay, and so that is the mental karma. Okay, so that intention to harm another person leads us to speak spitefully to him. Our voice uttering the snide comment is perceptible verbal karma. Okay, snide comments? Anybody here ever make snide comments? Yeah, you want to give us an example of a snide comment? Anyone want to give an example of one of her snide comments? Okay, so that, that mental intention brings forth the verbal action, okay, which is perceptible verbal karma. The harsh tone of our voice reveals our intention to hurt the other person. So it could be the harsh tone of the voice, it could be the volume of the voice, it could be the words themselves. There's lots of different ways in which our speech can be a window into what our intention is. Okay. So then Asanga says, what is mental karma? It is a mental action that conditions the mind. It consists of meritorious, demeritorious, and immutable actions. Okay, so meritorious, virtuous actions in the desire realm. Demeritorious, non-virtuous actions in the desire realm. Immutable actions are actions that give rise to birth in the form or formless realm. And those are those states of mental absorption that you have actualized as a human being. Okay, so you're meditating as a human being, you attain serenity, and then you keep getting deeper and deeper concentration until, let's say, the third dhyana. Then that your meditation on the third dhyana becomes the immutable karma that will throw you into a rebirth in the third dhyana of the form realm after you die. Yeah, unless your concentration decays. Okay. So that immutable karma is always virtuous, and it comes from concentration. Okay. So mental karma is the mental factor of intention which accompanies a primary mind and is included in the fourth aggregate of miscellaneous factors. When the mental factor of intention accompanies a primary mental consciousness that is also accompanied by a virtuous mental factor, such as faith or love, it becomes constructive karma. Okay, constructive mental karma. That intention is mental karma and intention karma. Okay? Similarly, the intention that accompanies a primary mental consciousness that is also accompanied by a non-virtuous mental factor such as attachment, resentment, or discouragement, which is a form of laziness, then that mental factor that's in that same primary mental consciousness with one of attachment, resentment, or discouragement, that mental factor of intention becomes destructive or non-virtuous karma. Okay, so the intention is mental karma and intention karma, and the non-virtuous mental factor is an affliction. Okay, so within that same primary mind, you have an intention, you have an affliction, you have many other mental factors too. Okay, so intentions, or intention karma, produce intended karmas, which are physical and verbal actions. Motivated by the intention that shares the same primary mental consciousness as attachment, someone engages in the verbal intended karma of lying in order to get what he wants. Okay? Or taking what hasn't been freely given to get what he wants, or whatever. Okay? Motivated by the intention that shares the same primary mental consciousness as vengeance, someone may kill another person who speaks divisively about her to ruin her reputation. Okay, so somebody speaks divisive words about me to somebody else in order to ruin my reputation. I have the intention of revenge. Okay, vengeance. That's the non-virtuous mental factor. In that same mental consciousness, primary mental consciousness, is also accompanied by a mental factor of intention. And so the whole thing becomes negative because of the affliction of vengeance in the mind. Okay? The virtuous and non-virtuous mental factors don't accompany the five physical senses. Okay? So when it may seem like it does, because you look at something and I want it, as if your visual consciousness itself has the attachment. It doesn't. Your visual consciousness is just apprehending the raw data of the object. Okay? That data gets transmitted to the mental consciousness, which says, "Ooh, goody chocolate, I want some." Okay? And that's the mental consciousness that creates the non-virtue because of attachment. And then it motivates the hand to reach out and grab the chocolate. Okay? So a strong mental intention that instigates lying and a strong mental intention that abandons lying are both the mental factor of intention and intention karma. The former is accompanied by a non-virtuous mental factor, such as anger, the latter by a virtuous one, such as integrity. Okay? So this is often what we're trying to do when we practice the Dharma, especially the thought training practices, is we have a non-virtuous mental factor arising in our mind, making that whole mental state non-virtuous, including the intention. And then we try and see the situation from a different perspective so that a virtuous mental factor arises in that mental consciousness. And then the mental factor of intention in that mental state becomes virtuous, and it will lead to a virtuous action. Okay? So, I mean, often what we're trying to do is just kind of get rid of one mental factor and nourish another one. When Thich Nhat Hanh talks about watering seeds in yourself or watering seeds in other people, what he's talking about is doing things that will make a virtuous mental factor arise in somebody's mind. Okay? So when either intention is accompanied by the other branches that form a complete karmic path, okay, so the object, the attitude, the action itself, the completion, then it becomes the second link of dependent origination and has the power to propel a rebirth in cyclic existence. The physical or verbal actions that are brought about by these mental karmas are intended actions. Okay? With me so far? So now the next section is physical and verbal karma, and within those, perceptible and imperceptible forms. Another translation for perceptible and imperceptible was revelatory and non-revelatory. Okay, so revelatory in that it reveals somebody's intention, or non-revelatory in that it doesn't. But I think perceptible and imperceptible is a better translation. So all Buddhist schools agree that karma is connected to our intentions. So Tantrikas, Chittamadhyans, and Svatantrikas say that all karma of body and speech and mind is the mental factor of intention. Okay, so all the karma of the three doors is the mental factor of intention. Okay, the mental factor of intention that motivates an action is intention karma, and the mental factor of intention at the time of doing the physical or verbal karma is intended karma. Okay, so if you go out and, smash that spider, there's an intention karma in your mind first, that's together with a non-virtuous mind of, anger or attachment. I'm attached to my body and I'm afraid that spider is going to bite me. And so I have the intention to get rid of it and smash it or whatever. Okay? And then you go and you smash it. That's the physical action. That's the intended action. Okay? And the mental factor of intention at the time you smash the spider is intended karma. Okay? So for these three schools, the Sao Tantrikas, Yogacaryas, and Svatantrikas, okay, all these karmas are the mental factor of intention. When your first motivation in your mind, okay, is the intention karma. The karma when you're doing the physical or verbal action is the intended karma. But that's also mental, okay? It's in the mind, okay? So for them, both the intention karma, or the mental karma, and the intended karma, the physical and verbal actions, are intentions. So for them, when you talk about physical and verbal actions, they're thinking about the mental factor in the mind when the body and speech is actually doing that action. Okay? Now the Vaibhasikas, they have another idea. So they say that karma can be of two kinds. Intention karma, okay, which is the mental factor of intention. So far, same as the others. And intended karma, which is karma of body and speech. Okay. So far, so good. The karmas of body and speech are of two types: perceptible forms and imperceptible forms. So here's where the difference comes with the other schools. You know, with those three schools, the karmas of body and speech were the intention accompanied the physical action. Here, for the Vaibhasikas, it's the imperceptible form, or it could be perceptible or imperceptible form. So it's a form. It's not a mental factor. Okay? So perceptible physical karma, what Vasubandhu says, is the shape of the body when it is motivated by an intention and is moving. For example, when prostrating or killing. Okay, so the shape of the body, the position that the body is in, that is perceptible physical karma when you're doing the action. When you're doing the action of prostrating, hopefully the intention that you're able to perceive through that is faith, or it could be regret for negative actions, okay? And through killing, the intention that you're seeing is anger or hatred or whatever, disgust. Okay, so and perceptible verbal karma is the sound of the voice, for example, when lying or speaking kindly. Okay, so when you're speaking, the sound of the voice, because remember, sound is in the form aggregate. Okay, so the sound of the voice is the perceptible karma, because you can tell from the sound, you can get an idea of what somebody's intention is. Okay, so the shape of the body and the sound of our voice are forms, and they are perceptible forms in that they enable others to understand our motivation for doing the action. Okay, so, you see somebody prostrating. Do you think if you look closely at how they're prostrating, you could see if they're prostrating with an attitude of faith, or if they're distracted. You don't think when they're prostrating, you can tell what their motivation is? Some people think, if you want, if somebody is really prostrating from their heart and with feeling, do you think they move their body differently than if they're, thinking about going to the beach after they finish 100,000? Do you think their body moves differently? Yeah, if you look closely at what's going on. Okay, so maybe something we could start to check up. Mm-hmm. When you see somebody meditating, do you think you can tell when they're distracted and when they're focused? Maybe sometimes you can tell. Or they're like this, and then their eyes, their brow furrow goes like this. Yeah. And when they talk about body language, you can learn so much if you're sensitive to body language. Okay. Okay. And perceptible forms may be virtuous, non-virtuous, or neutral. You're sweeping the floor. Yeah. So unless you're sitting there going, why am I on the road to sweep the floor today? I can't stand this. Maybe you're just sweeping the floor with no specific intention, so that's a neutral, perceptible form. Okay? Or if you're practicing thought training, it might even be a virtuous perceptible form. Imperceptible forms are subtle forms that are not perceivable by the sense faculties and that arise only when a person has a strong intention. So they are either virtuous or non-virtuous, because neutral actions lack the powerful intention necessary to bring forth an imperceptible form. Okay? If you have a neutral attitude, it doesn't have the energy. You can't, yeah. Okay. Imperceptible forms continue to exist no matter if the person is conscious, sleeping, or engaged in other actions. An example is monastic precepts, or the 5 lay precepts, or the 8 anagarika precepts. So that level of precepts, those are all different types of pratimoksha precepts. There's how many different types of pratimoksha precepts? 8. Okay. What are they? Fully ordained bhikshus and bhikshunis. Okay, novices, male and female, shramaneris, shramaneras, shikshamanas, upasaka and upasika, the lay people, and the one-day precepts. Okay, so those 8 are at the level of pratimoksha precepts, and those are imperceptible forms. When you're taking them, when you're kneeling, to take them, that's a perceptible form, because people can look and see, oh, they're taking precepts because they're kneeling. But then after that, you get up and you're moving around, you still have the precepts. It's a subtle form that is with you, but, nobody can tell that you have them. You can't see that. Mm-hmm.
What about bodhisattva restraints?
Those are mental. Those are mental karmas. Yeah. And the pratimoksha precepts are taken until we die. At that time, the precept body is lost. The bodhisattva and tantric precepts we take until awakening. Yeah, so there's not a precept body that goes out of existence when you die. Yeah. Okay. I've this whole thing of imperceptible forms and the precepts, I've asked so many questions to so many lamas about them, and they're definitely an extremely hidden phenomenon. Okay, some lamas say that what they are is they're very a subtle form of the elements. And, because you ask, well, what exactly is this? It's a form. What exactly is it? And you get a variety of attempts at an answer, in my humble opinion. Maybe they really understand it, but yeah. So, imperceptible forms, okay, they're subtle forms that are not perceivable by the sense faculties and that arise only when a person has a strong intention. They are either virtuous or non-virtuous because neutral actions lack the powerful intention necessary to bring forth an imperceptible form. Okay, so that's why when you go to take your bhikshu or bhikshuni vows, they always tell you to concentrate. At that time when you're going in there and they're doing the Sangha Karman, you have to concentrate and do the visualization. And that way you generate the precept body in yourself. If you don't have that strong intention, it's going to be difficult to generate the precept body. There's different ways to visualize when you take the pratimoksha vows. I teach the way that I learned in the Tibetan tradition. The Chinese tradition way of doing it is another one of those extremely hidden phenomena. What do you think? Yeah, kind of. We've been trying to. We write down all the descriptions of it. It's still kind of hard to describe. Okay, and so that imperceptible form is with you all the time. So that's why they say that when you have, any of the pratimoksha precepts, as long as you are not breaking them, and you haven't given them back, you are all the time accumulating merit because that precept body is there all the time. Okay, even you're sleeping, even you're distracted, whatever, you're still keeping the precepts. And you notice when we do our posada, one of the things that we say is when we're confessing, may the virtuous one affirm that I am pure, that my precept body is complete, and that I can perform the posada with purity. So your precept body is complete. In other words, if you broke any of the proscribed actions, precepts. Remember we talked about that? Yeah. So if you've broken any of those, then that part of having broken the prescribed part, you've confessed, and so your precept body is restored. And when your precept body is restored, then you can perform the posada. If you don't confess properly, then the precept body isn't restored, and then problems. Yeah.
Just a point of clarification. When we confess, we're purifying those downfalls.
Yeah.
And is it the confession that restores or the recitation of the pratimoksha vows that restores the precept?
I think it's the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that you can confess, and then you are there for the posada. For the Shramanerikas, they aren't there for the recitation of the whole thing, but they still restore their precept body.
Thank you.
So the precept body is a form phenomena. The precept body is a form phenomena.
Yeah.
But when we're dreaming, the form aspect of ourselves is laying on a bed.
Right.
Whereas the activities that are in the dream are not form. So does the person who's the character in the dream not have precepts, but the person who's laying on the bed does?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a dream person doesn't have precepts because a dream person isn't a living being. Okay. The dream, unless you're a high yogi and generating a precept body, but not a precept body, a dream body. Okay. Yeah.
This is the basic explanation why we can't break our vows in a dream.
What determines whether you break your precept or not is what you think when you wake up. Okay? So if you dream that you're killing somebody, you haven't lost your ordination because you had that dream. If when you wake up, you go, oh, that was a good dream. I got rid of that guy. Even if it was just a dream, I'm really glad I dreamed I killed him. Then you create a lot of negative karma. If you wake up and you say, oh, I really have a lot of regret, I don't want to even think like that towards another living being, even in a dream, then there's no negative karma. And actually, you're reinforcing your intention not to kill by thinking about that.
Is the negative karma that you make upon rejoicing in the morning, is that about rejoicing in someone else's activity, or is that about if you were a monastic, break a parajika offense?
I don't understand. So it's your dream.
Right, but you said it's not me in the dream. It's a fictional character, you said.
Yeah. I mean, is the dream body you?
No. So
No.
Am I just rejoicing in someone else?
No, you're just rejoicing in, this what this dream body did, what your mind concocted. Okay? What your mind concocted. It's like if you sit and daydream, you can sit and daydream of killing somebody. Yeah. And afterwards, if you go, oh, that was a really good daydream, and then that's going to turn into actually a mental karma, and you might go out and kill the person. But if when the meditation bell rings and you realize you've been thinking of killing somebody the whole meditation, and you go, oh, that's not so good. I really regret that. Okay. So then you don't. It's your mental processes, okay? But what's interesting is the things in the dream, well, it's coming. They're another category of what we call the phenomena source. So the phenomena source are forms that are only perceptible by the mental consciousness. So the precept body is one of those, and so is the dream body. Okay, we'll get to it. I'll explain it a little bit more later. Okay. Yeah, but it's not when you dream that all of a sudden there's two yous. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is why, because the precept body is always there, that's why it's really helpful to take the precepts rather than just not take the precepts but abandon the action. I mean, it's always good to abandon non-virtue, but you don't create the same karma as if you took the precept and you're not doing the action. Okay? So this is, a good reason for taking precepts when you have the intention to abandon non-virtuous actions. So imperceptible forms are obscure phenomena. I second that one. Established by reliable cognizers depending on authoritative scripture. Okay? So they're not things that you can see through direct perceptions, and they're not things that you can have an inference by power of the fact. It has to be, it's an authoritative inference. An authoritative inferences, I don't think they're watertight. Jeffrey discussed them a few weeks ago. They're not watertight. They're doing the best you can with the information you have, but it's not 100%, in my opinion. Okay. And Jeffrey's my friend because he agrees with me. What? Sometimes. Yeah. So he goes from the friend and enemy thing, depending upon whether he agrees with me or not. No, whether he answers my questions or not. Yeah. Chim Jampel-Yang, in Ornament of Abhidharma, he's a Tibetan who wrote, kind of this huge Abhidharma text in Tibetan that has been translated into English. So we could even get it for our library. Yeah, an old friend of mine translated it. It's like this big, and it's like this complicated language. Abhidharma is Abhidharma. And some of it is fascinating, and some of it, the terminology is quite difficult, I think. Okay, so Chim Jampel-Yang in Ornament of Abhidharma quotes a sutra that establishes their existence. In other words, the existence of imperceptible forms. So here's the quote. All forms are subsumed in 3 types of form. 1, forms that are visible and obstructive. 2, forms that are invisible but obstructive. And 3, forms that are invisible and non-obstructive. Okay, so there's only 3P with putting these terms together. An example of visible and obstructive form is a table. It's visible, can be perceived by the eye consciousness, and it obstructs the space it occupies so that no other things can occupy that space at the same time. Okay, so this is visible and obstructive. This is visible and obstructive. Okay. The sound of people laughing is obstructive because it prevents our hearing someone else who is whispering. Oh, oh, yeah. Okay. Examples, examples of invisible but obstructive forms are sounds, tastes, and odors. They cannot be seen by the eye, but they are obstructive. For example, the sound of people laughing is obstructive because it prevents our hearing someone who is whispering. Yeah. The smell of what? Litter boxes. Yeah. Is invisible and obstructive because it obstructs you from smelling the perfume. Yeah. Which you don't want to smell anyway either. Okay. If you put the perfume in the kitty box, then it smells even worse. Okay. An example of invisible and non-obstructive forms are imperceptible forms. So they're invisible, you can't see them with your eyes, and they're non-obstructive because they don't obstruct you from seeing or doing anything else or putting anything in a space. Okay? Vaibhasikas assert that only imperceptible forms are examples of the third type of forms, whereas prasangikas include other phenomena such as dream objects. Let's see what the footnote says. Only Vaibhasikas and prasangikas accept imperceptible forms, but the way they assert them differs. Vaibhasikas say they are substantially established, whereas the prasangikas do not. The other tenet systems do not accept imperceptible forms. So they say that your precepts are just the mental factor of intention. Okay. So, yeah, what?
But even the language of our posada that says the precept body, does that mean that that's just a mental thing because the Chinese are Chittamantran, we think?
It is, no, it must be some influence from, so many people use the Vaibhasika. The Vaibhasika influences all the other schools, yeah? And sometimes the other schools will refute something the Vaibhasika says, and other times they just accept it, there's no refutation. So in this case, many of the prasangikas accept it, but they interpret it in a somewhat different way, okay? But also because your precepts are they're common throughout all the Vaibhasika, the 18 schools. So you're going to use probably their idea of it being an imperceptible form, and you get a precept body. Okay. Remember that at least in Tibetan, the word for form and body is the same word. Okay. So sometimes it means body, sometimes it means form, which is including all the other things.
Venerable, I think too, like in the Chinese, at our full ordination, they will explain that the precept body is a seed in the eighth consciousness. But I think that is a function of the contemporary Chinese Buddhist philosophy, right? Because the original Dharmaguptaka Vinaya would have been in Sanskrit. So I don't know what word was used for precept body, but the Chinese term for precept body too can be translated as essence of the precepts. Mm-hmm. So it's always debatable. I'm never sure which to use, but I just adopt precept body.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because I would assume that the Dharmaguptaka itself would probably say it's an imperceptible form. But the Chinese Buddhism is very strongly influenced by Yogacara, and so saying that it is a precept body, that it's a seed in the foundation consciousness, that accords with their philosophy. As we see, His Holiness gives some of his opinion, and you'll see that how he interprets it is more according to the Prasangika view of things, okay? Because the Vaibhasikas say it's substantially established, and of course the Prasangikas would never say that. So what you often have is, you look even in the ordination ceremony, you have the original Sangha Karman that was there from the time of the Buddha. And then they add all these other prayers and visualizations and activities to form the whole ordination ceremony. And those are according to the different tradition that is practiced in that country. And so the ceremonies turned out to be a little bit different, but the Sangha Karmans are always there, and they're always the same. The same with the Posada. Okay, the Tibetan Posada, they make Torma offerings, they recite the Heart Sutra, there's all sorts of other stuff. Put put in it that you don't find in the Dharmaguptaka. So this is very common, when there's rituals and ceremonies, you take, maybe something that's from the scriptures, that's the bare bones of it. And then according to your tenet system, according to the culture that you're in, and then people write other prayers, they do other things, and you get the whole big thing. Yeah. So that's quite natural, that's how Buddhism spreads from one place to the next. And you'll see when Venerable Hengqing teaches us in March, because she is like so keen that we do a bhikshuni ordination. Yeah, more than keen, over the moon with enthusiasm for us, doing the bhikshuni ordination. And so we're going to be talking about, what are the essential things to keep in the ordination and what can we change? Okay, so, in the Chinese ordination, they have a 1, 2, or 3 month period. Yeah, we'll probably start out with 1 month or a little bit more than 1 month. But the first thing you do is you learn how to eat properly when you go. Yeah, and that's why I couldn't go down for the medicine meal with everybody else the night I arrived, because I didn't know how. When you have your 3 bowls here and your 3 bowls there, and you mix this one here and that one there, and put this with your chopsticks, and I didn't know how to do that, and that's Chinese culture. Yeah, but we're not going to teach that when we do the ordination ceremony. We'll teach people, you have a spoon, you have a fork, you can have chopsticks. Here's how to properly hold chopsticks, because many people in the West eat with chopsticks, but they don't hold them in a way that facilitates eating with them.
Like a spear.
Yeah, right, like a spear, where it's like, this, and you just got that big thing and then it falls out. Yeah. So, yeah, because when I first went to for bhikshuni ordination, I didn't know how to eat properly with chopsticks, and neither did the other American nun, and so. Yeah, that leads into a whole other story, which I've told you before. But it's a good story. Maybe should I tell it again? Okay, we'll go on. But everybody, you keep the essence and then you add stuff. Look, the robes are different. Yeah, and look at how the Tibetan robes are and how we've changed. Some of the Tibetan robes, we've actually stitched in the pleats, and stitched in, we've changed the donkas a bit. So that's all, very, very common. Okay. So the treasury of knowledge. Oh, I was talking about these other phenomena that are part of the phenomena source. Okay, so dreams, precept bodies. When you've heard about the meditation where yogis will develop serenity or single-pointedness on the universe full of bones. We talked about that meditation in volume. It's in volume 4. Yeah, and it's a great meditation. It's so good for your mind, boy. You want to settle your mind down, do the bone meditation. So then. So they develop their concentration so strong that they actually create a mental body, an imperceptible mind, an imperceptible form. that is the object that their mental consciousness perceives when they are meditating on the universe full of bones. Yeah. I've often wondered if you're meditating on the figure of the Buddha, if at the beginning, that is similar as some kind of imperceptible form. And then when you actually, gain realizations, then it's an actual Buddha. Yeah, but maybe at the beginning it's some kind of imperceptible form. Okay, the Treasury of Knowledge speaks of 3 types of imperceptible forms: ethical restraints, anti-restraints, and other imperceptible forms. Maybe before getting into this, are there any questions? Yeah.
So the first question would be, how can we enjoy treats without attachment, incurring negative karma?
How can we enjoy
Treats.
Treats. Okay.
Without attachment.
Tweets or treats?
Treats.
Treats.
TR.
TR. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. Who enjoys tweets? I don't know.
Someone does.
Okay. Yeah, we know one person who does. Without attachment. Yeah. You enjoy the treat with an awareness that there's no happiness in that object itself, that the happiness arises, from the combination of the object, your sense faculty, and your consciousness. Okay, it's not like happiness is there and it like comes across the ether into you, but it's something that arises as a dependent process. And you think that, that pleasant feeling is impermanent. So since it's impermanent, enjoy it when it's here. And when it's not here, don't daydream about it, don't cling to it, don't try and recreate it. Let it come and let it go.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. What if a person's intentions is not apparent? For example, a person befriends another with the intention of stealing something. Is the deceptive behavior intended karma?
The deceptive behavior is intended karma. Yeah. Their mental attitude, wanting to deceive, is the intention karma. Did I answer the question okay?
Sounds
Yeah.
good. You ready for the next one?
Yep.
Okay. Since the Bodhisattva and Tantric precepts continue until fully awakened, does that mean that those who have taken them are creating negative karma in future lives, even though they're not consciously aware that they have them?
Yeah, this question comes all the time. I even asked it. Yeah. And it seems like, because you don't remember having taken it, you have it, but it's, you kind of have to retake it in that life for it to become really fully functioning again. And so what happens is the seed from having taken it in the previous life facilitates your encountering the bodhisattva path and being able to take the bodhisattva vow again in this life. Do you create negative karma even when you're a baby and you don't know that you took the bodhisattva vows in the previous life? That's a question for the Buddha, who understands karma far better than me, who understands all the subtle aspects of it.
Okay. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Where do empowerments fit? Are they form bodies?
No, empowerments aren't form bodies. Empowerments are a ceremony where a Lama leads you through a meditation.
Ready?
Yeah.
Can a precept be broken mentally and imperceptibly because there is no action but creates the negative karma. For example, daydreaming on drinking alcohol and enjoying the dream.
Okay, like I explained before with his thing, if you dream, that you got really splattered, raving drunk, and you took that, what's that guy's name? That old quarterback that just won the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady?
Yes, him. And he took one of the trophies or something, and he threw it out of the boat he was in.
He threw it to Gronk.
Yeah, he threw it to another guy.
He threw it to
just
his
threw it
receiver.
out of his boat into somebody else's boat, because he was really drunk.
Tom Brady was drunk?
Yeah, Tom Brady was drunk.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what his coach said about that. Okay. But that's what the newspaper said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Okay, so where were we? So Tom Brady, instead of the football, he threw the trophy. Yeah. Well, everybody's going, how could you do that? Yeah, so will you read the question again? This is when they did the Q&A this afternoon in the impeachment thing. Trump's attorneys very often ask them to repeat the question. Yeah. So, will you repeat the question, please? They were very polite. They repeated it. Anyway. Yes.
Can a precept be broken mentally and imperceptibly
Okay.
because there is no action but creates the negative karma?
Yeah. So that's the same answer that I gave for him. Depends how you react to your daydream afterwards. If you rejoice in doing that action or you regret doing it.
So my question is about the imprints that karma leaves on the mind stream. I think I've heard that it's an abstract composite, neither form nor consciousness.
yes.
But do all the schools say that? And what would it mean that it's an abstract composite? What
Okay,
exactly
that is
it?
in volume 3. Okay, so you know what abstract composites are, yeah? So when we talk about impermanent things, yeah, there's 3 classifications: forms, consciousness, abstract composites. So a seed of a karmic seed, is an abstract composite. So that means it's not form, okay, and it's not consciousness. It's this grab bag called abstract.
That's the thing. I know it's impermanent because it's an abstract composite. And I know 2 things that it's not.
Yes.
But what it specifically is.
Yeah. So it's something that most of the other abstract composites, maybe all of them, I don't know, but at least most of them, are, in order to perceive them, you have to perceive something else. Yeah. So a person is an abstract composite because to perceive a person, you have to either perceive their body, speech, or mind. So it belongs in that same kind of category. And karmic seeds, the seed itself is not virtuous or non-virtuous. The seed is neutral. So we often say a non-virtuous seed or a virtuous seed. That's incorrect. It's a seed of a non-virtuous karma, a seed of a virtuous karma. Okay.
Do all the schools say that it's an abstract composite? None of them say it's form or subtle form or anything? Or mental?
No, I've never heard of anybody saying karmic seeds or anything else. I mean, saying it's a... No. Yeah. We get into this interesting thing, it's coming, about how, we'll get into it. And then I'll explain it. Yeah.
So I'm really puzzled about imperceptible forms,
Mm.
and that this one sentence that you and His Holiness have written, that they arise when you have a strong intention.
Mhm.
So how does consciousness then produce
This
form?
very subtle body that's made of subtle elements, that's one explanation. How it does that, I don't know. I've asked that question. How does this work? What's the process? But remember, these are extremely hidden phenomena. Yes. Uh-huh.
Probably a similar question with the same answer, but just curious about how the process of confession and then the recitation of the precepts affects the subtle form, like restores that.
There's a very subtle kind of glue. Yeah. So that's how it works. You can get it at Costco. Yeah. Yes.
I'm confused by the taste, sounds, and odors being obstructive, in that we all agree that the table is obstructive. We see it obstructing many things.
Yeah.
But if I think about, for instance, the sound example given,
Mm-hmm.
so if someone's laughing and someone else is whispering, maybe one person can't hear the whisper, but the person standing next to them has better hearing and can.
Yeah.
So it seems
for
like it
one
depends-
person,
Okay.
it is invisible and obstructive. For the other person, it's invisible and not obstructive. Because somehow you can hear the whisper through the laughter. Anything else? Okay, so this is a good place to stop. And we'll go into the 3 kinds of imperceptible form next time. But it's interesting to think about this, the intention karma and intended karma. And so, as you go through the day and you do different things, then try and be aware, when do I have an intention karma in my mind? Is there an intended karma? Now, when is it virtuous? When is it not virtuous? What are the mental factors there? Okay, so if you start looking at that through your actions, then it becomes like, I took the book out and I closed the book. Okay, so there was an intention in the mind, and there's the intended karma of closing the book. But this is not going to create, that was a perceptible form, maybe. I don't know how much you could tell my motivation. I didn't have much of a motivation, okay? So it's not going to be something that's virtuous or non-virtuous or creating an imperceptible form afterwards. But it's just closing the book. So the 3 schools would say that the intended karma is my intention when I'm closing the book. And the other schools would say that it's the actual physical action of closing the book. And then we'll get into why the process, because when you think about it sometimes, why do they say it's form? Why not just say it's the intention, like the other schools? Why do the Vaibhasikas and the Prasangikas, say that it's a form? So we get into that. There's a reason for it. Okay.